here with us tonight. So a couple things, just reminders. Since this is the last class, the only thing due now, if you are a student taking this class for credit, there's a reflection paper due. We've talked about it. It's detailed in Canvas. It's just a summary of things that you've learned coming to these lectures for this semester, and it's due a week from tonight. So make sure you turn that in. If you turn that in and you've attended the lectures, then you'll be given 1 credit and a passing grade for the class, okay? If you have any questions about that, or if you've missed because of challenges, illnesses, accidents, whatever, family matters, just let me know, email me, and I'll work with you. We'll figure something out, okay? So we are very excited in our last lecture to have Paul Weibel with us and his family. Paul is an absolutely amazing entrepreneur, maybe one of the most successful entrepreneurs to graduate from Utah State University. And I've just enjoyed so much getting to know him over the last few months and being with him for the last couple of days. Paul emulates everything that we teach in our Center for Entrepreneurship. So he has incredible passion for all of his businesses. He has a strong purpose behind his work. He has a remarkable work ethic. He builds great teams. He's very efficient. He gets things done with fewer resources to produce big-time results. He gives phenomenal customer service. He diversifies his portfolio and his product line. And most important, he gives back very generously to his communities. And so as I've gotten to know him, he's just kind of gone down the checklist of things that we teach. So he's the ultimate role model for our Center for Entrepreneurship. I've learned quite a bit about him over the last while, and he started his first business. He was a paper boy at the age of 11, and his friends had paper routes, but a lot of them thought it was too hard. And so he said, I'll take your route. And he did that until he had a whole bunch of paper routes. And when he was a young boy, he was earning more money than his grade school teacher as a paper boy. And then he started a painting business. He came here to Logan. He was a skier, and he came here to ski and formed a ski team. And they competed nationally and won the national championship against teams that had more experience and more history with skiing. And then he started painting. He started painting churches. He realized, hey, there's a lot of churches in Utah, and they all have steeples, so he painted the steeples of churches. Then he bought a house here, but I could go on and on and on. I won't take his story any further, but he's done that his whole career, looking for opportunities, finding problems, solving problems, building companies, selling companies that create great value in communities. And so we would like to honor Paul as our Entrepreneur of the Year here in the Center for Entrepreneurship. We have an Entrepreneur Excellence Award that we'd like to give him right now. And Paul, I'd like to have you and your family all come up here, okay? Come on over. This is an amazing, amazing guy. So this is Paul. This is his wife, Michelle. And this is Bobby, and PJ. And they run the company Econo-Pak, which he's going to talk about tonight. And they're continuing with that same tradition. They have a culture in their organization that we hardly ever see, where employees come first, they're treated well, they're paid way above minimum wage, they're given bonuses, they're given gifts, they're given time off if they need it. And this is the kind of company we want to build at Utah State University. So Russell, if you'll come out, we've got the award. And we have gifts for you here. I think we've got one. We've got 2 more. We got one for all of you. So let's thank them for being here. They've come all the way from New Jersey. So with that, we're going to turn the rest of the evening over to Paul Weibel.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, Utah State. Believe it or not, the last time I was in a classroom here was 50 years ago, if you can imagine. What's even amazing is my mentor and teacher, John Anderson, who's right here in front of me, just celebrated his 90th birthday. How's that, folks? When I was here, believe me, it was amazing. One of the few restaurants was the Bluebird, and you could have laid on Main Street and never got run over by a car in the summer. But starting with that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm not here for myself. I'm here for the students that are here, hopefully to give you encouragement that the future coming out of this school is extremely bright. The foundation and the tools you're going to be left with, from what I've seen, are absolutely unbelievable. So with that, I'm going to start where I started, as Mike mentioned. And I started with my little family that had started a business in their house in the early 1930s. My parents had me in their mid-40s, and at the end of the day, we started in the basement, and my mother would answer the phone up in the kitchen. My folks didn't have a lot of money, and I decided when I was 11 that it was time to make some money. And what I did was I went to the local fire department where they would hand out newspaper routes. And you had to be 12 years old. So honestly, I lied. I was 11. But at the end of the day, I got my 20 newspapers or 25 newspapers. And I found out that I made all of 11 cents a week for each house that I delivered a paper to. So myself and about 3 of my friends lined up. We got our newspaper out, went out. And at the end of the day, after maybe 2 days, everybody decided they didn't want to do this anymore. So I ended up with 220 newspapers, but at 11 cents a house a week, that's $22 plus tips. I was making roughly $1,500 a year, and for a 11, 12-year-old young man, it was a lot of money. In fact, in today's money, it's close to $17,000. The average teacher was probably making around $2,100 a year, putting it back into 63, 64. And I saved up enough money to buy the dream bicycle, which was a Schwinn I attached a little wagon to deliver my papers. And for 3 years, went out and delivered papers, and it was unbelievable. As we went along in time, I joined at the age of 16 Junior Achievement, which was a mentoring program for young adults to start a business, and certainly with that, I won a national award for junior achievement. I came up with putting together candles. My parents helped me get boxes, and in 1 year, we sold roughly $17,000 worth of candles. However, you learn from your failures, folks. Suddenly, I found out that we did 500 candles with short wicks. We had to go back and reopen them. We found out that we didn't tighten the candles tight enough, and they didn't perform well. Quality control. Starting at that point, I learned a lot along with the newspaper. I'll move on. The next thing I decided, my parents had moved to a new neighborhood in a new town, and the first thing my father said was he handed me a paintbrush and said, "You want to make some money? There's no newspapers here. Let's paint the house." So about 2 weeks of brushing along, I decided that this probably wasn't a great idea. And in the paint store, they had something new. They had an airless sprayer that allowed you to paint a house roughly in 1 day. I said, wow, this is a pretty good idea. So I got a time payment on the sprayer. I decided I didn't want to paint the windows and the trim, but I could go in and paint a whole house in 1 day. Well, that's a pretty good deal. I didn't have to hire anybody. And I was able to paint and get $250 a day, which back in the day was a lot of money. Actually, the first year I did very close to $5,000, which $8,000 rather, $5,000, which was worth roughly $44,000 in today's money. While I was painting a house, a gentleman I was working for said, "Gee, my son is a minister. Would you like to paint his church?" "Oh, I think that's a great idea." Well, the church hadn't been painted about 100 years, folks. And so I went and for a month and a half scraped and painted. And at that time, the steeple looked awfully big, and I knew I wasn't going to do it. But a crew came in, and in 3 days, they painted the steeple, and they got paid $3,500. Well, guess what? Paul became the steeple painter. And I started painting churches, And suddenly, we were making some real money. In fact, that year, that summer in '72, I think I pulled in about $8,000 clear, which in today's money is $59,000. Not bad for a 17-year-old boy, right? So one of the things that I did as we went along, I decided I'm a car freak, and before I bought this Ferrari, I bought a brand new Corvette in my senior year in high school. And by the way, a brand new Corvette in high school was $4,500. So if you look at the market in Corvettes, you know today what they're worth. From the Corvette, I went to a baby blue Ferrari that played the bridge over the River Kwai. And I took the Ferrari, and guess where I went? Utah State. I came out, I think I was the first person to have a Ferrari in Utah. And I don't think it would run very well in the snow. But I went down to Salt Lake and sold the car, came back to Logan, and bought a farmhouse right over by the state liquor store that was the original farmhouse in that area. It was 5 bedrooms, rented out the bedrooms, and voila, I covered my costs on the house. Okay. My college days started at Morris County Junior College. I got a degree in business organization and management, and I ended up at Utah State with a Bachelor of Science in Advertising Design. Again, with John being my mentor, fabulous time here. It was unbelievable. The mentoring that I got here gave me the ability to understand business, which was really, I'd worked on, but I really got my toes in the water on that. And, at the end of the day, I made in 50 years, I can pick up the phone and call 5 classmates from 50 years ago at any time I want. And I hope that for all of you, that you build those relationships, not just, in the school, but for lifetime friends. It's such value. It's amazing. So at the end of the day, I had the house for about going on 4 years, and I sold it when I went to leave Utah State. And the people I sold it to didn't have the money to buy it, but they wanted to buy it. So I did my first real estate deal, and I carried a mortgage for 8 years on the house, which gave me cash flow when I went back to New Jersey, and it really, really worked out very well. Before I get to that point, Mike had mentioned I painted church steeples. Well, when I landed in Cache Valley in Utah, all I saw was church steeples. So it was like, golden opportunity. In Logan and some of the other areas that I painted the church steeples, they didn't have the money to pay me. They said, we just don't, we're in rough shape. The church hasn't been painted in a long time. I said, well, listen, I'll make a deal with you. You buy the materials, tell me what you can pay me monthly, and we'll do a payment program. Once again, along with the house, for about 5 years after leaving Utah State, I had a check coming in every month, and no one ever defaulted. It's amazing, right? So when I got home, this is the house that I moved back to. My parents were still in the basement. My mom was still up in the kitchen, of course, in another house, and answering the phone. And by the way, my son PJ, who's CEO of Econo-Pak, has that phone to this day. I think he's waiting for it to ring for whatever reason. But in any event, we started at this house, and I worked on coming back from school. With a degree in advertising design, I came home, and my parents principally were working with corrugated boxes. So the first thing my dad proudly handed me was a corrugated box. And I was like, a corrugated box? What am I going to do with this? Well, what I did was I converted and started to build displays, many of which you'll see in the food stores today that I designed, 30 years ago. I started doing corrugated displays. I did them for some of these products. I did probably 30 or 40 different brands. But it was the first in the late 70s, the introduction at retail and food stores of displays that people didn't have to put their product on a shelf, but they could merchandise their product from the floor of a food store. So from my parents' basement, my first desk was a card table with a folding chair. And that was starting to get a little old, and Mom, as we got busier, was a little hard on the phone up in the kitchen because the soup was boiling over, or her girlfriends came over to play bridge. In the meantime, I'm hoping to build my business, and Mom's telling the girls, well, rest your cards, girls, I've got to answer the phone. I was like, oh my God. So we moved out of the house, and up here, number one was a 2,500 square foot factory that I rented. I couldn't afford a forklift, but I hired two really strong guys, and we literally offloaded the pallets by hand back in the day off the trucks and reloaded them. That very quickly became too small. The second factory we had was a dairy barn, and I don't think the cows had left too long ago, let's put it that way. And needless to say, a little elbow grease, and Bessie the cow got moved out, and we moved in. And we were there for probably 5 or 6 years building our business, and eventually we moved into our facility that we're currently in today, which is about 250,000 square feet. Being in the display business, it wasn't just the brown boxes, it wasn't the displays. By the way, these are some of the shipper displays that I did do for Reese's Pieces, but I did them for Jell-O, I did them for Kool-Aid, a lot of the big brands and names. And at the end of the day, I came up with some inventions that I thought were pretty cool. The piece in the center is a shelf extender. And the problem in merchandising and marketing is always the fight for shelf space. And I'm not very smart, but I'm realistic. I said, gee, why can't we extend the shelf? Well, if you go into food stores today, you'll see shelf extenders all over the place. And basically allowing people to merchandise their product without having to get shelf space. And it was a really big deal. The floor stand shippers I did, again, was an introduction into a market for merchandising and marketing products that allowed the manufacturing of products to be put into a display, put into a box, and that box was shipped to the store, and all they had to do was open the box up. And the other point being is they did not have to find shelf space for their product because they now had floor stand shippers. It also allowed in food stores, you have to pay slotting allowances, which are very expensive. Today, that's probably $40,000, $50,000 to get your product on a shelf. And if it doesn't sell, they send it back to you, by the way. One of the products that I came up with, and I love Halloween, I recognized the fact that why don't we take, and I'd been working with Nabisco, why don't we take an Oreo cookie and make it a Halloween treat? So I took some food coloring, took it and colored the center of the cookie with orange flavored product, and took it to Nabisco to their tech center. Needless to say, we started producing that product, and we did over 55 million cookies a year for quite some time. So it just goes to show, right? The other thing I got into is my mother used to make me take green stamps that she collected, I'm sure in the 60s, you guys don't remember this, but you'd get these green stamps, you'd wet them or lick them and stick them in a book, and then you went to the food store and they gave you a coupon, right? And I really couldn't understand the coupon business. IRCs are called instant redeemable coupons, which are the coupons you see in magazines, newspapers that you cut out and then you take to the store. The average redemption of those coupons is roughly, and there's billions of them made, about 0.2%. So thinking about this, I said, gee, why can't we have the coupon right on the shelf extender, right? And offer the coupon for the product that's behind it on the shelf. So I took a little corrugated box, I took a little motor, I took a roll of coupons that I had printed up, put it together, put it with suction cups on a glass door of an ice cream case. And the first test market I did, the redemption was 28%. Needless to say, down the road, I sold the rights to my invention of the coupon machine to a company called Act Media that went on to produce 40,000 coupon machines. And I think they still may be out there in some sections of the country. Well, behind the coupon machine, I said, one of the hardest things to do in America with a new product is trial. Getting somebody to try a new product, how do you do that? Do you advertise and say it tastes good? Well, you're going to go to the store and say, gee, I'm going to spend $4 or $5 and not know what I'm getting. Or you'd have people that would be out there offering samples. Well, the average sample person would do about 110 samples a day. And I got together with some engineers and I said, look, the most expensive real estate in America today is the food store floor. And we've got to be able to come in with 2 or 3 square feet if we're going to come up with an idea. So we came up with the sample machine. This machine holds 400 samples, can be loaded in under 5 minutes. When it runs out of samples, it dispenses a coupon. And the fact remains that our trial on this product, the average trial at the time for a cost of a sample was $7. Utilizing the sampling machine, we got it down to 34 cents. So needless to say, this took off. This really took off pretty well. The other product that I came up with was, I was in the store and I was thinking about advertising space, which is very expensive. And I was looking around and suddenly I looked down at the floor and I said, wow, why don't we put advertising on the floor? So I started a company called Floor Graphics. And we printed up advertising that would be in the aisle in front of the product on the shelf. Well, that worked out pretty well for a while, except when they mopped the floor, the advertising started to get dirty. Nobody wants dirty advertising for their product, right? So I had to come up with another idea. One of the things I'd like to do is I had a little slide projector, and I thought to myself, let's take this slide projector and turn it down and project on the floor. So my first test was taking friends that had a food store, climbed up a ladder, put the slide projector up on the ceiling, and projected the ad on the floor. And that worked really well. But the major problem was, how do you change the content? Are you going to get on a ladder and climb up there and change the content or the ad? Another challenge for me. I said, okay. So we went from installing chips that would have a time situation where you could have 10 ads every day or two it would change, to what I call content management. And what we did was we had the ability now to wirelessly change the content for the projector and the ceiling. Right now, they're in about 14,000 stores. I don't know if they're here in Utah, but they are in certain areas of the country. So that's just a few of the ideas. And the last one, in merchandising, we came across with Jell-O and Kool-Aid. They were trying to find a way to merchandise or mass merchandise product. And basically I sold them on the fact that they could come in with half pallets and full pallets of product in trays with a header card, and voila, as many have seen in any of the food stores or Costco's, you've seen pallet displays, and I did that probably around 1980, okay? So basically, I was in a lot of other companies that I owned, started besides the display business and some of the things that I invented. But the question that always comes to me is, how did you transition into packaging? And very simply, what we started with was with brown boxes, the corrugated boxes that my father handed me as I came back from Utah State. And as I mentioned before, we started to put together these shipper displays. Well, first, we were designers of the displays, and we would sell the design to a manufacturer. Then we realized, well, gee, why don't we sell the displays as well? So we started to Nabisco and Entenmann's and Kool-Aid. We started to sell them these shipper displays. Well, they didn't really like building the displays or putting the product in the display. So they asked me, Paul, can you do that? I say yes to everything. Of course, no problem. We can do it. Now what do we do? Well, we expanded, as you saw, the buildings, and we started pre-building these displays and putting the product in it, in the box, and shipped to the store. Well, sooner or later, they came back and said, this is really an offline product, some of these products that we're putting in the displays, and we really don't like line diversions to have to make a special product like a single-serve Oreo. How about if we sent you the product, you put it in a bag, you built the display, you put the box of Oreos in the display, and then you ship it. So, voila, we started building these displays, packaging the product, and from that, we grew into basically fulfilling many, many products that you see across America. In fact, Econo-Pak now ships over 800 tractor trailers of snack foods every week, if you can imagine, a lot of trucks. So that's really how we got from a brown box to a finished product. So we successfully moved along in the business, and I was offered a tremendous amount of money at the time for the company. And I said, gee, maybe that sounds like a good idea. I could buy a couple of Ferraris again, right? Well, in any event, 1996, we had revenues of about $77 million, and basically we turned around and had sold the company. And in 2005, the company I sold it to, which was an investment banking group out of the state of Washington, they came back and said, no mas, we can't manage this company. We've lost a tremendous amount of money. Would you buy it back? Well, I said, well, as you know, I say yes to everything, right? So I said, well, yeah, how about $1 million? They said, $1 million? I said, yep, it's $1 million. They said, let's think about it. Okay. So we bought back Econo-Pak in 2005 for $1 million. We're going to move now into Econo-Pak, where it is today. PJ is CEO of the company, and his brother's management of running the physical plant. And I thought I'd hand this over to him to let him talk about Econo-Pak for a minute and the future.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to give a brief overview on the company. Again, I'm PJ Weibel. I'm the CEO of Econo-Pak. I'm the handsome guy on the left up there for the picture. So the easy part was buying the company back for pennies on the dollar, right? We got the company back. We were all excited. Obviously, we bought it back because, our team and our family believed that, we knew it was in bad shape, but we knew we could grow it again, right? And you get an opportunity to buy the company that my grandfather and my father started, back was very exciting for everybody. And like I said, that was the easy part. We all got in there and realized how bad situation it was. Again, it went in 9 years, they took it from 77 million in revenue to 4 million. They took it from 500-600 people to 40 people. And when we showed up, people had bad attitudes. People were not happy. No money had been reinvested in the company in terms of equipment and infrastructure, computers. I mean, literally, it was just stripped down and basically run into the ground. So we had a lot of hard work ahead of us. In the next 8 years, we worked to upgrade the equipment. We had to upgrade people because some of those people, there was no coming back. We upgraded the current facility we were in and really built it up. We focused really on a big part of the growth back was focusing on customer service, right? We had a lot of people that were just, run down and not happy. You're not going to get good customer service out of those people. So we really stress good customer service. People call you, you call them back, or you answer the phone. They email you, email them back as soon as possible. Even things like we would get quotes. We would actually try to quote most of our quotes in the same day we got the opportunity, when some of our competitors were taking a week or two. And I think before we bought the company back, they were probably taking a month to get back in quotes. So we really focused on growing the business back. Things, took off and went well. By 2014, we were able to expand across the border into Pennsylvania to our new facility, which was in the picture before. But ultimately, what I wanted to talk about is, who is Econo-Pak? What do we do today? So we're one of the largest contract packaging, food contract packaging companies in the country. We specialize in food. All we do is food, and we do dog bones. So only things that you can eat. And most of the dog bones that we package, people can eat, by the way. Yeah. And so we do all different types of food packaging. Most of our clients are the large, Fortune 500 food companies. There's a list at the bottom. So Mondelez, which is also Nabisco, something we're very proud of. We're the largest contract packager for them in the whole world. So we do all the Oreos. One of our biggest focuses for them is we do all the Oreo 2 counts, Chips Ahoy 2 counts. We do all the different variety packs with the golden Oreo. So if you've ever had a 2 count Oreo or Chips Ahoy, they've come from our facility. We do a lot of the Ritz crackers for them. We do Halls. We do Sour Patch Kids. We do Swedish Fish. We do a tremendous amount for Mondelez. We've also got great companies like Cargill. Cargill, although is not as big of a name as Mondelez, it's a privately owned company. They do $180 billion a year in revenue. One of the most successful food companies in the country. We're very proud to have them as a client. For them, we do Truvia sugar. So we blend all the sugars. We bring in the different component parts. We blend them and then fill them into the bags that you get in the store. Unilever is a great client of ours. Obviously, very broad client, or a very broad company, but we're obviously with their food division. We're doing a lot of the Knorr pasta and the Knorr soup. So if you've ever had those, we have all the equipment that forms the bag. We drop the pasta, we drop the seasoning, seal it, day coat it, and pack it out. Treehouse, we do a lot of different private label stuff for all the different supermarkets, and so there's Aldi's, Kroger's, Walmart. So we're producing Cheez-Its for them. We do animal crackers for them. So that's all under the private label brands. Utz is an exciting part of our company where we're doing a lot of different pretzels and potato chips and things like that. Kraft Heinz, we do different types of peanut products, things like peanut products and also crackers. Nylabone's a very large dog bone company. So if you've had dogs, you probably had Nylabone. So we do all the different single-serve dog bones as well as all the different bulk dog bones. But ultimately, our core competency is all around food. We hire people within the food industry. Our facility is designed around food. All the people the building is designed to manage food, to temperature control food. All of our equipment is designed to package food. So it's really, a well-rounded company at this point. We've got, microbiologists on staff. We've got engineers on staff. We've got electricians on staff. And our core competencies, we do a lot of flow wrapping, do a lot of bagging. We do a lot of variety packs, displays. We do products from agricultural to snack foods, all different types of powders. A new division that we just put in is a seasoning business. So we started about a year ago with seasoning products. So we started with pretzels. So we season pretzels for Utz. So we do all different types of products from barbecue to Cajun to Mike's Hot Honey. We're doing some, what else are we doing, Bob? We're doing a bunch of other ones. If you name it, we're seasoning. We now have 3 seasoners. We're actually sold out on capacity. We're going to be adding another seasoner. And the seasoning business is great because all of our clients can't handle their seasoning capacity. So we're able to help them with all the different volume needs they have. But ultimately, working with all these large companies, a lot of these large Fortune 500 companies, they're growing at such a rapid pace. Their marketing departments are coming out with so many new products. They internally can't manage it or can't produce it. So that's where we come in and help them realize those sales that they have and be able to package their products for them so that they can, fulfill the sales pipeline. And now, this year we'll do over 90 million in revenue, well over 700 employees, and again, continuing to grow our business. We're breaking ground next month on a new 125,000 square foot facility. In May, we get our first fully robotic line put in, which we're excited about. So we got a lot of great and exciting things. So that's a brief overview on who we are and what we do. Now back to my dad.
And yes, I am computer illiterate, so there you go. Okay, so I had 9 years where I'd sold Econo-Pak, And here are some of the things that I had invested in and did. The first company I did was Captive Audience. It was basically a flat screen content management company that I had the idea of putting flat screens up, utilizing them for advertising. I was the first company to be out there to do this, and it was when a 42-inch flat screen was about $8,000, if you can imagine. The biggest thing about that business was the fact that if you don't have content or something interesting there, people are going to lose interest. You can put the weather up. My whole goal was, if you're in the banking business, you have a flat screen. There's people that come in for their market in the morning, and the people that would come in at lunchtime are different. The people at dinner time or the end of the day would be different. So what I developed was a capability of content management wireless to the flat screens. It's the first time anybody ever did it. I then turned around and sold that company to CBS Outdoor and made out very well with it. And to this day, when you see a flat screen, basically that was all my designs that were there. And it's very exciting to see that business go where it did go. Online Design was one of the first .com companies in the late 70s. 1977, the .com was a military item that was basically just printed out. And we were able to come in there and start doing .com management and websites for the .com. I built that company up and sold that to an investment banking group. The other company I bought was Destiny Plastics. It was a company, we invented the first, basically I went in and I bought a third of the company. And I did what they produced was injection molded party wear, plates, glasses, stemware, cutlery. I was the first person, or at least to market and sell match sets of knives, forks, spoons, and napkins in one package, okay? I also came up with a single flute wine glass, where before you had to have two pieces and you pushed them together. We produced the first single wine glass that came out. This company was primarily on the West Coast. What I did was they were shipping all of the goods to the East Coast. So I created duplicity in manufacturing, and I made tooling and molding and a factory on the East Coast. And again, this is another company that I put together, an investment banking group bought them. And as you may know, I think my claim to fame is with the Wellsvilles. I was the first person to ski off the head wall across the valley. I don't know if that's true or not, but 50 years ago, I was stupid enough to do that, and I'm still here to tell the story. So as you know, I was tremendous love of skiing. I was junior college national champion ski racing. I had hoped to go to BYU. I came from a rock band that I played in with long hair and a beard, and they said, you might want to go to Utah State. Needless to say, my first day in the field house, guy in front of me said, hey, you have a place to stay? I said, no, I just got here from Salt Lake. He said, how about $80 a month? I said, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. It turned out to be Jack Ford, whose father became president of the United States. And I had an illustrious time going to Washington. When the Fords came to Logan, it was just unbelievable. And it really was the icing on the cake for me here at Utah State. At the end of the day, my love of skiing took me to buy Berthoud Pass ski area in Colorado outside of Denver. That was the first ski area to have a chairlift. I bought that out of bankruptcy. When I got there, I thought I was going to have a lot of items that we could put together to rebuild the ski area. And what had happened, the company went bankrupt and didn't pay anybody. So I advertised in the newspaper in Denver. I said, anybody that has parts pieces from the Berthoud Pass ski area, bring them in, and I'll pay you as much as I can for what you're owed. I had truckloads of equipment come in. I had snowcats. I had the big turn wheel for the chairlift. Somebody came in with all the chairlifts, and Berthoud Pass was back in business. I had 3 years running and owning Berthoud Pass, and yes, I did open late so I could cut some powder myself. But at the end of the day, I ended up selling that to Brazilian Airlines, which eventually did not do too well. But in any event, I got a lot of skiing done. The last thing I did after I sold the ski area was I started building log homes, which are really gigantic sculptures, as I found out. It's a challenge, to say the least, but it's a love to do. And I built 84 log homes in Granby, Colorado. This is just one of the interiors that I did, and it was really a love to do this. And when I finished up in Colorado, my last house there, I came back to New Jersey and bought back Econo-Pak. And subsequently, for the fun of it, I built a few more log homes in New Jersey. I just finished my 86th log home, and that's the last one I'm going to do. So, you know, the key to success for you, and I hope if any of you are going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to start your own business, I ask you please to remember this statement from me, and that's the fatal flaw. And everything you do, if you want to be successful, you've got to identify for yourself what can take you down or hurt your business. You know, for us, for instance, if we lose electricity, we're in big trouble. We lose $300,000 or $400,000 a day. Get a generator. If we have equipment that is key to our operation, have spare parts. I mean, there's a multitude of things that can happen when you own your own business. And one of the key elements is identify what can hurt you, and that's the fatal flaw. I basically built a legacy of employing thousands of people, and at retail, I've done billions of dollars in my career. I certainly, in the display business, we went over and were recognized winning 50 awards for the designs that, as I said before, you can still see in some of the food stores. And at the end of the day, we won the highest industry award, which was the Obelisk Award for the sample machine. The one thing I can tell you is this about owning your own business. You know, happiness is a key, as my friend Michael said today, and we have to look at really what's the value. Is it making money? Really, what is it? Well, I'll tell you the greatest asset I have, and it's my family. And it's what you can do to build your business, to have the support, to have the success. Because let me tell you one thing, I can almost guarantee the greatest educational thing that can happen to you as an entrepreneur is failure, because you'll learn from your mistakes. And if you're smart enough, you won't make them again, right? So I can only tell you that the money isn't part of my family, by the way. Just want to make sure you know that. But we really, really love my family and the support that I had from them. And, you know, one of the things I want to point out in the picture down below, my parents, my mother had a great idea. We had 3 employees. She said, well, let's give everybody turkeys. Okay, so we did turkeys when we had 10 people. We did turkeys when we had 20 people. We did turkeys when we had 50 people. Well, now we do about 900 turkeys. And we get 2 tractor trailers. And PJ, Bobby, myself, Michelle, my nephew, we have our entire plant, and our employees come out, and we personally hand them a turkey and a bonus for the Christmas season to come. I would also point out that during COVID, we still survived. And when I say that, we all left the front office, and PJ and Bobby were in there running 12 hours a day to keep our plant alive, not just for them, but for our employees who needed desperately to have the salaries that were possibly not going to be paid. But we made it through that period of time successfully, and it really, really, really was terrific. I can tell you this. I was very lucky. A lot of my relatives lived to be pretty old. When I went back to my home, I started with my uncle. He was 100 years old and still selling. My dad was pushing 70, and there I arrived. And I have to tell you that at the end of the day, the one thing I learned from another generation, which was my great-grandfather, who was born in 1864. He lived to be 102, and I knew somebody for years that was alive when Lincoln was alive. but he was an old New York salt, and he taught me a song, and I promise I'm not going to sing it. I promised my wife that, but I can tell you the words of this song, and hopefully this will stay in your mind. And the words of the song are this: there was an old man, and he had a wooden leg. He had no tobacco could he beg. There was another old man, he was cunning as a fox. He had tobacco in his old tobacco box. Said the first old man, will you give me a chew? The second old man said, I'll be darned if I do. Save all your money, be cunning as a fox, and you'll have tobacco in your old tobacco box. So that's from a man born 160 years ago. And I think it holds very true today. So, folks, that's my story, and I hope it impacts all of you. I hope all of you a successful career ahead. What it meant for me leaving Utah State, what Utah State did for me is absolutely incredible. What a mentor like my friend John down here did for me, I can never pay him enough in my love for what he did. And I'm here today in big part because of the school and him. So there you go, folks. If anybody's got some questions, we can be very happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
You say you always say yes to everything. Has there been any opportunities that you ended up passing on, and how do you decide that? When to say yes, when to pass on?
Well, without experience, it's easy to say yes. If you've had a failure or you've had a problem, you tend to be intuitive to look a little harder at what you're going to say yes to. So as I got older and the experience and the water under the bridge went, I watched what I said yes to. Thank you. Yes, sir. I'm going to let PJ come up and talk about that for a minute. I think why don't you come up, PJ? We relegated this together, but I think it's very important to hear directly from the source who's running the company how we treat our folks.
Sorry, could you repeat it real quick?
Well, just everybody says their employees are their top asset, and everybody says you need to have great people and treat them well, but Mike's calling you guys out at being extra good at it. What do you do different?
Yeah, I think, one of the visions we had early on as we were building the company back up and, in our new facility and trying to do great things is that, we realized that we've got to be a cohesive unit. All the different departments have to work together. And one of the things that we realize and really strive for is we want people to really enjoy coming to work. We want them to enjoy coming to work because they're going to work harder for us, right? And we want people to be happy at work. So we take a lot of pride in that. And we do a lot of different things. We talked about it earlier today. One of the things we do is we have a loan program, right? So you can come at any time. For most people, it's between $1,000 and $3,000. We do not charge interest, right? I said earlier today, we used to ask, what do you need the money for? We don't even ask that anymore because actually it doesn't really matter. If we can be there to help you, because a lot of people don't have a family they could ask for money and things like that. We put in the loan program. You can't take another loan out until you pay that loan off, and then you have to wait 60 days. But again, just something that we can help people out with. We set up a system where we work out with you what you can pay back, and we just take it out of your check, and then when you're paid off. But again, something we can help people with. We want to make sure that the we'll call it utensils and what they need are nice and they're comfortable. They like their computer, they like their desk, right? We want them to feel comfortable in their workstations. We want people to be happy. I'm not wearing it now, but we do merch drops. I call it merch drops, but we do a lot of different t-shirts and long sleeve t-shirts and hoodies, and we hand them out. People absolutely love it. And it's exciting for us because the fact that people love to wear something with our company logo on it, it's unbelievable. And we make it fun. I tease that we're going to have a big merch drop coming on May 1st, and everyone gets excited. We've done some stuff for the executives, and then we'll be walking through the factory. Someone will come up to me and ask if they can buy one of the shirts that we did special for the executives. That's how much pride they have in our company, which is really exciting. And there's no screaming, there's no yelling, right? It's all about finding out if someone does make a mistake, let's get to the root cause, right? And let's put a corrective action in place so that it doesn't happen again. We're not going to sit there and berate the person. Again, there's no yelling. Like I talked about before, when we bought the company back, there was a lot of screaming and a lot of yelling. I'm like, well, we're getting rid of these people who are doing all the screaming. That's not how we want our company, to operate. And again, it's, reinvigorating people when they do a great job. And I also think the other big thing is, I think as CEO, and I really do believe this, the biggest way you can show your appreciation is by paying people, right? People get very excited when you say, you're doing an amazing job, we're really happy, go over a whole review, be able to give them more money so that they can, live a, potentially better life because of money, but it shows their appreciation and people really, really respond to that. So it's a combination of a lot of different things, but, and then promotions too, right? Promotion's big. I mean, we have people that started making $50,000 for us that make over $400,000 today. So again, seeing those type of people, and I think people respond to that, seeing people work, their way up through our company and things like that. But, and then just, inspiring the other managers within our company to have that positive, great attitude where they're, pushing people to be great in a great attitude. And, it's great. The other thing I love to see is when people within our organization hang out with each other outside of work. Like we had a company, the medical company that we used to own, my dad didn't really touch on it, but everyone there hated each other, right? It was like, at our company, everybody likes to hang out for lunch. They go for walks. They hang out and they do the paint and sip. They do all sorts of different things together. So it's just creating a culture where we set a high level, and then, everybody tries to maintain that level and hold each other accountable to maintain a high level of, service and accountability. So.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
What's your favorite car?
My favorite car? Well, to tell you the truth, I have had a lot of cars in my time, and actually, to be honest with you, I helped finance. Mike asked me how I financed this business. Luckily, in the 1980s, you could really buy some incredible cars that went up in value 2, 3, 4 times. I would say I have 3 favorite cars. A 66 427 AC Cobra, 57 Goldwing Mercedes, and now what I collect is 1959 Cadillacs with the big fins. Of course, those are the cars my father couldn't afford, but it makes me feel good to drive them around. But the old Cadillacs are a lot of fun, and my wife hates driving them, by the way. She won't go, but that's all right. I love you anyway, dear. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
With your plastics company, you mentioned that you duplicated manufacturing on the East Coast. Why have you not done that with Econo-Pak?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
With your plastics company, you mentioned you duplicated manufacturing on the East Coast, but with Econo-Pak, you're just in the same place in the East Coast.
Well, it's a very good question. First of all, it's a major market in the Northeast. Where we're located we're right in between Boston and New York. So you look at the number of people, it's pretty incredible, logistically and for distribution. I think the growth down the road is going to be acquisition and very likely spreading our business to the Midwest and to the West Coast. We had some opportunities to do that, but we were stepping a little bit too fast. We're very conservative. And, our client base is very happy where we are now. And it's a good point because we do ship, and we are in every food store in America. And you'll see something we do somewhere. In fact, walking on campus, I picked up a package of Nutter Butter and Oreos that came from the factory. And on the plane flying here, they handed out pretzels. And I said, gee, I looked at this bag of pretzels, and I tried it. I was so excited to get off the plane, and I called PJ, and I said, I got a great new account for us. He goes, Dad, that came from the plant. So there you go. What's that? Sure. He's the boss,
No, that is a good question for the West Coast. One of the, our business, the food packaging business is very capital intensive, right? So you have to go get a big building, and then you got to get business to fill it with. Then you have to buy all the equipment. Then you have to find the people to, maintain and run the equipment. And when we looked at the different models, the cash drain over the startup or for like a 5-year projection is pretty unbelievable, especially what you're going, what rents and buildings are going for these days. So our strategy in that regard, like my father said, would actually be through acquisition. So rather than getting an empty plant and trying to fill it, we'd buy a company that then has existing business in it, and then we would grow it. And that is something we are actively looking at. We've made a couple of offers on companies. We have not won those offers, but one of the companies had 2 locations in California, one in Chicago and one in Orlando. But we are growing ourselves internally. So again, we're focused on that growth. But when the right opportunity comes around, we are actively looking at those. But the ability to just get an open building and pay for all those costs and wait to make profit is not something we need to reach to do. So
I want to just mention that I hope no one in this room is afraid to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't cost anything to take a shot at it. And it becomes one of the most exciting and fun things you can do, especially if it's successful. So I hope everyone in this room that feels that they're on the entrepreneurial spirit can pick up a little bit and understand where I came from, my little newspaper out, and where I am today. And more importantly, both PJ, Bobby, and I this company is not about us. This company, we look at our employees as family, and we are only as good as they are. And we strive very stringently for training, quality, safety, to make this thing work. And part of making that work, we're only as good as the weakest link in the chain. And we really, really work very hard with our people. When I'm in the plant, I go in the front door. The first place I go is I walk around the plant. How are you today? How's the job going? And again, are you happy? Is there anything else we can do for you? And that culture has worked so well for us. And I hope all of you can pick that up. Also, leaving in your minds from tonight, please, if you are going to be an entrepreneur and you are going to build a business, please remember the fatal flaw. It's really, really important for the security and success of your business, whatever you start. Any other questions? I think we're wrapped up. We're going to eat some ice cream, I heard. That's pretty good. So, Mike, I'm going to turn this over to you. Thank you very much, everybody.